Why do you keep doing the very thing you promised yourself you'd stop? If you've ever found yourself caught in the gap between the life you long for and the patterns you keep repeating, like starting another diet or overthinking absolutely everything until you're exhausted, we're going to uncover exactly why that happens and how to move past it. So, diets don't work. Your worth isn't a number on the scale. Being cruel to yourself hasn't kept you on track. So why do you keep ending up back here, making the same promises, feeling the same disappointment? I don't think the problem is a lack of discipline. I think you've been asking yourself, what's wrong with me? When the question we actually need to change is, what do I believe I need protection from? So today I want to show you why changing that question leads to lasting changes and ultimately closes that gap between the life you long for and being stuck repeating the same patterns. So this isn't something I just learned in textbooks. It's something I've wrestled with myself over the years. There was something I couldn't quite understand. And I've heard this same struggle from hundreds of people I've worked with over the years. I know this isn't helping me, but I can't stop. If knowing was enough, you would have changed a long time ago. What actually is happening? One of the things that neuroscience has helped us understand is that knowing something and changing are two very different processes. One of the frameworks that's helped me make sense of this comes from neuroautonomist Dr. Jill Bolte-Taylor. And today I'm borrowing one of her ideas because I think it beautifully explains why understanding something doesn't automatically change what we do. She describes 4 distinct characters that live inside the brain. Today I'm going to simplify them a little because I think they're incredibly helpful. The manager. So the manager loves plans, rules, certainty, control, and it believes that if it just gets everything right, all's going to be okay. Sometimes that motivates us, and sometimes it organizes us, and sometimes when it feels under pressure, it becomes critical and demanding. So for example, if you've tried to change your eating, the manager is the one writing that strict meal plan on a Sunday night. Then we have the protector. Now, our protector isn't trying to be perfect. It's trying to keep us safe. So when life feels uncertain or emotionally painful, it reaches for whatever has reduced stress before. So that might be overeating, restriction, body checking, perfectionism. Because at some point, those strategies helped us to cope. And then we have number 3. The explorer is your curious side. It notices, experiments, laughs, connects, and reminds us that life isn't something to optimize. It's something to experience. It's the part of you that wonders. I wonder what would happen if I was just kind to myself today. And then we have number 4, the wise one. I like to actually call Obi-Wan. If you think about it, Oberlin, Obi-Wan. So the wise one holds the bigger picture. It remembers your values, the person you want to become, the life you're trying to build. It keeps that in focus. So when everything feels chaotic, the wise one quietly asks, who do I want to be in this moment? Do you see why the wise one is so important in any kind of healing journey? So let's come back to where we started. Why do we keep doing the very thing we promised ourselves that we'd stop doing? It's because these parts are trying to solve different problems. We have the manager who creates the perfect plan, and then life happens. And then the protector steps in to create safety. So if the plan falls apart, the manager responds with harsh criticism, trying to get things back in order, being critical. The protector then feels even less safe, and the cycle continues. It repeats. See, you aren't broken. These parts just simply haven't learned how to work together. So how do we put all of this together? We're going to practice with today's healing pivot. We're aiming for a different conversation. So the next time you catch yourself in one of those familiar patterns, pause and imagine these 4 characters sitting around the same table. Let's ask your manager, what are you trying so hard to control? And then ask your protector, what do I believe I need protection from? Now we get to invite the explorer into the conversation, because honestly, the explorer and the wise one probably don't get a lot of airtime right now. We can ask the explorer, what else could be true here? And finally, asking the wise one, what choice will move me forward toward what I actually want? Every time you practice a healing pivot, you're strengthening the neural pathway that supports the life you want to live. And as you repeatedly choose responses that are more closely aligned with your values than with your fears, those pathways become stronger. And then over time, you develop more freedom, more flexibility, and more options for responding, because you're learning to work with your whole brain in service of your whole life. So I realized that one healing pivot is not going to change your life today, but hundreds of them absolutely can. Healing is simply learning to close that gap between the life we long for and the patterns we keep repeating. So if this helped you see yourself differently in any way, I've created a free guide drawing on more than 26 years of my working alongside people experiencing eating disorders, disordered eating, and body image issues, helping them to recover. My aim is that it helps you to understand where you are on your healing journey and identify your next healing pivot. You'll find the link to this in the description below. And if these conversations help, consider subscribing. Not because I want another subscriber, although that would be nice, but it's really so that this channel becomes your private library, a place that you can return to whenever you need reminding that you're not broken and that change is possible. Which character do you recognize most in yourself right now? Is it the manager, the protector, the explorer, or the wise one? If leaving a comment doesn't feel comfortable today, that's completely okay. I've also created an anonymous community poll, and I genuinely love if you could vote, because it helps me understand what would be most helpful for us to explore together next. So until next time, one healing pivot at a time.